Yeah, what I realized on YouTube is that no matter what happened before you came on YouTube, like just you as in anybody, once you get on here in this environment, you go through phases.
You got to
You go
start
through
over.
phases.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
got to
it's
start
it's
over.
almost psychological too, because
Yep.
you think you're mature and a grown up, and all of a sudden you get in this situation. You said, "Well, I'm gonna type this guy's a loser," and what does that do?
Yep. And I'll tell you, I would do anything to meet some of these guys. Like I wish so bad that I could have went to that thing y'all were at. Um,
We'll be back plenty of times, so I'm sure it's
yeah,
only a matter of time.
yeah, and I'll tell you, I really remember the days where I got my second truck and I had me and one guy, and then we had a helper. And if I was right there again, I think I made more net money. Now I didn't own as much stuff and I didn't have as much big looking stuff, but the net money was probably as much as it's ever been when it was me and a couple of guys. Of course, I was in my 30s and I can't do that anymore, but I think I made more.
Mhm.
The gross numbers weren't big,
Right.
but I really think I took home as much or more money in those days.
What would you uh, what would you do differently since the apparatus costs so much as time goes by? Like now, the apparatus might cost twice as much, and you make the same thing. Would you do anything differently?
Well, Zach, to be honest with you, um, I'm afraid that if and I don't want to open a can of worms on YouTube, but if I wanted to try to look back and change and regret things the way the Lord has led my life, I'm afraid that that would mean my decisions had taken over, and I promise you that I could probably put it in the ditch a lot worse by myself. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say that I'm very blessed. And even like I had a really bad motorcycle crash in 1994, and that was the last time I've ever been drunk in my life. Um, Things bad have happened, and the next day I wish I could take them back. But looking back now at a 33-year business stretch, I would be fearful to change anything because I think I've learned from all of it, and to focus forward is probably what I think would be the best plan for me and anybody else. But I will tell you though, there were some hardships and mistakes, and um, I strayed from train one time, but honestly, I've probably been too loyal to something that wasn't quite as loyal to me. That's the mechanic in me doing that, not necessarily the corporate world is something else, man. I'll tell you, they really are. They'll chew you right up. I mean, you're nothing to them. But looking back, probably the biggest, you know, I can't really call them regrets, but the biggest mistakes I made were thinking that this amount of growth was, going to be a piece of cake, and turned out to be quite overwhelming. And I tell you what, the bottom line is I missed too many soccer games. I missed too many, too much time. I was telling myself I'm devoted to my family by working to death to get them some extra money. Whereas I'm pretty sure my daughter would have rather had me at every game than had maybe a few years newer car than she could have had. I'm sure, that I could have put more time into the family and the family life and put that priority wise ahead of time. So I don't suggest anybody work 60, 70-hour work weeks. I just don't suggest you do that because time flies by and you look back at life and, I should have been at all those soccer games. You can't tell that's a pet peeve that bothers me, can you? I
I,
didn't.
I share the same thing. I mean, my kids would always say, "You're gone all the time. You work all the time." Um,
That hurts.
it does hurt.
But let me
And
ask you this, Zach. Did it hurt you more later than it did right there at the moment? Because that's my story.
it hurts more later. I agree with that. It hurts more later, and I think that is because later is when you realize that your time's run out. in that area and you can't go back. And when you're there, it's almost like when I was quitting smoking. I was like, well, I'll quit next week. I got plenty of time before it takes its health toll on me.
Yeah.
So I'll quit next week. And I think that's what it is. I think in retrospect, you're like, well, I wasted the time. It's over. I can't change the decision. So now I'm full of regret. As of before, I could have changed it any time. So I'll just make the company a little bit more successful, and then I won't have to do all this, and then it just never happens.
Yeah, there's no finish line. So at some point, you have to be thankful and blessed for the position you're at and where you're at and who you are. And if you're a Christian, then you believe that these are blessings. You don't believe these are really total pat yourself on the back achievements, or at least I don't. Because I remember back when I was in total control and I believed that there was no higher power whatsoever, and I didn't believe God was influential in my life. I remember those days, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Wasn't coincidentally, I took away the alcohol and focused a little more, my Christianity and my beliefs, and all of a sudden things got better. And that's been my story. Now I've still regret some things, and I still regret missing all those soccer games. And that soccer games is a example,
Right. Yeah.
going to the lake, doing whatever, going on the trip. Like you mentioned a minute ago that your family. So were you not able to go with them to Frankie's here the other day, or was that today?
They were there earlier today.
Oh,
And it's just one of those things where, well, first I had to do this, obviously. And it's something that it wasn't like I did this and I couldn't have just moved it or something, or I could have called you and said it. It was something that I wanted to do. It's going to be hard to explain.
well, you don't have to. I just
No, I want to. I want to
curious.
because I figure like these are lessons that people go through that maybe someone else could say, okay, I see that. Maybe I can, whatever, they can see it. When my son got dropped off, and I'll encapsulate this real fast because you know the story. When my son went to his camp, there was like some bad stuff that happened at the camp when he went to the Citadel camp, and some of the people that were running the camp were relieved of their duties because there was like a hazing issues. So he was really affected by that, and so he ended up transferring because he had a full scholarship, transferring it to Furman, which is in Greenville. And because he had gone to the school and he loved the school, it was really nice. He just, at the time, he wasn't clear on what he really needed. So he's been at Furman for a couple of weeks, and my wife was going to go visit because when we dropped him off, of course, there was an emotional moment for him. My wife was emotional. Her youngest, or not her youngest, but her firstborn's going away.
Right. Yep.
So they were all crying, and I'm sitting there, not crying, but like, I'm going to miss you too, even though that I'm not crying. And said, we'll come back and visit you because we were concerned that he was going to have issues because of that experience. But as it turns out, and you'll like this, they went out earlier to the fun park because she wanted to go back and visit him. I'm like, we got to cut the cord. He's got to be on his own for a little while, but, difference of opinion. So she went to visit him, and then this evening she texts me and goes, he ditched me. He went to go be with his friends in the dorm and hang out. Yeah, he went to go hang out with his dorm friends, and now she's watching a movie by herself.
Well,
if you want to watch more videos just like this one, click on this playlist right here. If you want to see our brand new video, click right here. If you want to find out more about the great sponsors that make this show happen, click up here. And to join our email list where I notify you when we're going live, click right here.